And this is really an exciting time for entomologists and insect or bug enthusiasts all over the East Coast, because this brood 10 cicadas. So the different periodical cicadas are grouped by Roman numerals. Mm-hmm. There was lots of talk, 2 decades ago about Generation X, the slacker generation. I'm part of that group, and we've gone the way of the millennials and Gen Z, I guess. But brood 10 will be emerging in across 15 states in the along the East Coast and in the parts of the Midwest as well. And this is one of the periodical cicada broods that covers a number of major metropolitan areas. So lots of people will be experiencing these cicadas that will be emerging over the next couple of weeks. We will literally see billions of cicadas emerge across these states, and they will begin to make quite a racket as they sing together and chorus to find mates.
Jim, the cicadas at the end of the year that we're typically used to, it's noisy, but it has a rhythm to it. They kind of increase, they get to a point, and then they decrease. The earlier cicadas, this brood is a 17-year brood, but apparently I didn't realize this. There's actually a cycle of some broods that are only 13 years, right? So there's a different time span in some of those, but their song is a little different, and it's really loud and it's really intense. I have a brother who lives in Alexandria, and I remember last time around with this brood, he said it sounded like a jet engine in his backyard for hours and hours and hours. It just was hard to sleep, think, or do anything here at the height of this.
So only the males sing, and they're calling for mates, and they sing in unison. They're trying to be attractive to the females, but there are just so many of these periodical cicadas at any one time, and scientists have measured the volume of this sound, and they say that it can reach up to 100 decibels. And so, wow, that's some loud noise.
That's as loud as Beaver Stadium in a big football game, or even, that's when we got a big play going on. So that's quite incredible.
And when you compare that to the annual cicadas that we hear and see every autumn, well, not autumn, I guess August, they call them often called the Dog Day Cicada. And it's
right, because they come out towards the latter part of August. To me, it's almost a sad song. For me, it's almost like summer's coming to an end when I hear those, right?
Summer's coming to an end, school's about to start, but it's part of the soundtrack of our summer. And you'll hear them you hear them kind of drone and on and off throughout the day. But these cicadas these periodical cicadas that will be emerging now, and then we'll be singing over the next couple of weeks, right up probably through June and maybe the beginning of July. There's just a lot more cicadas singing at any one time. And so that's the difference.
We are talking with Dr. Jim Fredericks, chief entomologist for NPMA. And let's talk a bit about the life cycle. So what we see is the emergence, and here is the emergence after they've been in the larva state for the 16, 17 years underground. And the first thing they do is they're trying to get up out of the ground when they're emerging, get up onto the side of a tree or up into a tree usually. And that's when they kind of split their shell. They come out, and then that's when they start the racket. Is that how that goes here in the next week?
That's right. You ought to get your junior entomologist merit back.
Brother, I've been an amateur entomologist. I've always liked bugs and insects. But yeah, that's I've loved to watch this stuff. But yeah, it is pretty cool.
You describe it so well. And so these cicadas have been underground for the last 17 years. These cicadas hatched from eggs 17 years ago. So the high school graduating class this year, they were infants when these cicadas hatched. The iPhone didn't exist when these cicadas hatched. The last episode of Friends aired the same year that these cicadas hatched. So it's just like,
you're making me feel old, Jim. Stop.
You wrap your head around this. They've been underground, and what they've been doing is they haven't been dormant. They haven't been sleeping. They've been feeding and growing. And so what Nymph Cicadas, so the immature state of the cicada, they're true bugs, are called nymphs. These nymphs will feed on tree roots. And so they're actually feeding on the xylem, which is the water conducting elements within the tree roots. And they grow very slowly, and they go through
Do they look like kind of a grub, what I would call a grub, like kind of like a little kind of fat wormy thing, or what do they look like at that stage?
No, they aren't kind of a worm form. And if it was, that would be in a group of the insects that would have complete metamorphosis and
Gotcha. Right.
grub or a worm form. Instead,
Right.
are true bugs. And so they look not so different from the adults, except that they don't have wings.
Wings, right. They don't need them underground, so I have them, right?
Yeah. And in fact, when you take a close look, you'll see these nymphs as they crawl up, because when they crawl up out of the ground after 17 years, when that soil temperature reaches 64 degrees and we have a nice warm rain, they'll emerge from the ground through holes that they open up that are about dime-sized holes. You see them climb up the trunk of a tree, and they'll leave behind that nymphal shell. As you described it, that nymphal exoskeleton will split down its back.
Right down the middle. Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
And the adult cicada will emerge. And so that nymphal shell that you see on the tree is essentially what that nymph has looked like for the past 17 years, albeit in successively smaller stages from when they first hatched.
To listen to the full episode, just click the links below. And never miss a podcast by subscribing to Everything Under the Sun on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. New episodes every Friday.